Welcome to the Passionate Pioneer podcast. Hi, I'm Beth, and I'm passionate about supporting women who are feeling disillusioned and disappointed with their career and showing them what is possible when you follow your passion. Having your voice heard, finding your tribe of like minds, and being able to get support is so important when you don't know where to turn or who to talk to. I transformed my life from the corporate world to the coaching world, and I now empower women to follow my example and claim the freedom of choice to follow their heart, soul, and passion. So let's get started. Hello, welcome to the Passionate Pioneer podcast. And today, my guest is Dee Weights. And Dee Weights, my friend for, gosh, how many years now, Dee?
Oh, since 2010. So, yeah, we've been around for a good while.
Yeah, we have. We've been friends. I was really surprised, actually, when obviously launching this podcast. And I've had lots of women reach out to me, and many that I've known for a long time, such as yourself. So Dee is a horticulturist, and she's been in this job for a long time. I remember, Dee, that you actually, when we lived in the Cayman Islands, you were the one that made my garden. I asked you to design my garden for me.
Yep, I sure did. I love it, and I still do it. And it's part of my career and part of my passion. 40 years in horticulture, working locally and internationally. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better.
That's amazing. I remember the rocks that you used. They were lava rocks, and they were so unusual. And I was like, and my garden just looked spectacular. And I remember I had my desert rose plants, and just
right,
desert rose plants with the lava rock. It was just such an amazing. I was just very proud of that garden.
Oh, yeah, it was a wonderful job to do for you, Beth. And, for me, thinking out of the box, not as an average horticulturist, makes my job even better. And, for me to inspire and to do things that I have been trained and taught by some of the best sort of like horticulturists in the world, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, you're very lucky, I think, because a lot of women just sort of go into a career not really knowing, and they just sort of climb the ladder. They don't really. It's a lot of peer pressure, and you've got to get a job kind of thing, right? And
exactly. When you start out well, for me, in my profession, I mean, you start out at rock bottom, I mean, literally you're counting soil, or you are counting sort of like fertilizer. And when you start sort of like applying your passion for what you're wanting to know and grow into, that's when the actual the wheels in your head start turning, and exactly sort of like what your focus is and what you're wanting to do. But also having sort of like really great mentors that actually inspires you to actually work harder and pursue sort of like a career that nobody else can actually sort of like stop you. And that is the beauty of sort of like my career, because there is no stopping where you start and where you finish. And that makes me sort of like really proud of where I am. The downfall is basically when you're working with a corporate company, all they see is the bottom dollar. And, when you speak to them and say, this is not working, we need to sort of like address, different avenues. We need to address sort of like, what our demographics are, our actual age, and corporate in general never listen to what you are saying, even though you're the one that they have chosen to be put into a position to actually sort of like run companies, run corporations, run divisions. But at the end of the day, they're like, you're not making your target. But the target is based on a completely different demographic as opposed to sort of like where you are currently. And that frustrates you. You know, it literally sort of like puts you in a mind frame of like, well, what am I doing? What am I doing to sort of like make things work? Try and sort of like motivate your staff, try and motivate sort of like yourself actually into actually trying to be better. And sometimes it just does not work. And
I do find that in the corporate world that, you know, did you find that, you know, you sort of, it's still very much a man's world, isn't it? The corporate world.
So much a man's world.
Very masculine, one line thinking. They're not very good at multitasking. So women can think out of the box and multitask. No offense, guys, to you, but it's just one of the things. It's, you know, it's very sort of old school, old fashioned. And also, if you work for a big corporation, you are more of a number than a name.
Correct. You're nothing but a figure.
Personal touch, right?
Yeah, there's nothing personal. You know, I mean, you go up for meetings on a monthly basis, and you basically in a group of 90% men and 10% women.
Right.
And you look at them and they're like, well, you know, your figures aren't showing today, and what's the problem? You know, meantime, back at the ranch, you know, things are, well, you know, you put in price figures on stuff, you know, plant material and shrubs and annuals that literally, you know, sort of like most people can't afford. You take in out of state to a new state, and it's like, well, you know, how do you combine the two together? Because most people are in a mindset that, well, if I go to Lowe's or to sort of like any retail sort of like you know, competition, this is what they're selling their plants for. But you are exclusive, so you can bump up that price, but people don't see it like that. Right. People want to know that they can get a good bargain, a good price, and at the end of the day, sort of like enjoy what they do, you know. And
so you basically, let's just because I know you've changed jobs, haven't you, recently?
Oh yeah, I have.
And I'd really like to see that, because so you basically in that corporate job, you know, you lost your passion, didn't you?
I lost my passion.
The bottom line. You lost that passion.
Oh,
right?
I lost it, because it's like there's no more passion, there's no more sort of like glory, there's nothing. It's like I'm going to a job that I'm working sort of like from 5 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, and nobody appreciates you.
There's no joy. There's no joy in it, guys. And it's a big thing missing when it's your passion. It's something you want to do.
Exactly.
It's just been sucked right out of it, right? So
yeah, no, definitely, Beth. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, your life gets sucked out of you, your passion gets sucked out of you, your motivation gets sucked out of you. You just don't feel like actually waking up in the morning and going to work, but you have to.
Yeah. So tell us about the changes that you made then to get away from that.
So what I did was I did some really deep soul searching, and I decided to actually approach the actual prison service here in Tennessee, and I proposed a new program for the state of Tennessee, in actually helping offenders start from start to finish, how to grow, propagate, actually do farm to table actual food.
And wow. It's how fantastic is that?
Yeah.
I love that idea. I love it.
And it's healthy food. It's not the junk that is provided, you know, sort of like within the prison system. And our warden was absolutely blown away, and he's like, if you can pull this off, this is something that you can actually create throughout the entire Tennessee.
Wow.
So yeah, so we've got basically the entire property down by the river, the Cumberland River, and we irrigate our own plants. We actually sort of like start our own crop production. We do our own sort of like livestock. So we've got our fresh eggs. We've got everything literally from farm to table that is for these guys that they can actually start eating well, actually being able to sort of like maintain a good balance in the actual lifestyle, but at the same time providing a career for these offenders so that when they do leave the prison system, they've got something to go back onto without going back onto the streets.
And you've actually found another passion, haven't you? So you've got this one passion, which is the horticultural and getting your hands in the dirt and building something. And you've actually found another passion, like this, to blend something together.
Exactly.
Bring something new in, which is now to support people in a whole process of how to grow your own food.
Exactly. And, to do sustainable living is the way to go now. And, we are in the 21st century and we need to do this, but to have people line up and put themselves on a waiting list to actually sort of like learn how to do all of this is making a difference within the actual sort of like the prison system. And for me to actually walk in on a daily basis and to go down to sort of like our farming area and to see sort of like the actual joy on these inmates is absolutely mind-blowing for me. And it's like I'm doing something right. I'm doing something that is actually productive. I'm doing something that can actually help these guys actually get something when they come out. And why not? Why not actually provide something that is absolutely brilliant for these guys instead of going back onto the streets?
What's amazing, Dee, I can hear it in your voice. I can hear the passion in your voice and how much you love. So tell me now, let's go back to the soul searching. So you were in that corporate soul sucking job that you were just a number. So tell me about the soul searching and what you did to actually reach out to them, because it takes it has to take some courage to actually reach out to, out of your comfort zone into a prison service to do something which you'd never done before.
Right.
And so tell me a little bit about the soul searching and how it worked for you.
No, definitely. So, being in corporate and listening to these numbers and listening to sort of like the demands, it just became so monotonous to me. And I sat down one day and I'm like, what can I do that is going to be beneficial to the public, to some organization that can actually benefit from my career? And I started sort of like, writing down all sort of like the pros and cons of, hey, do we go back to corporate? No, we don't want to go back to corporate. What is out there that can actually work with my talents? And the one day I saw this documentation on TV saying that the prison service needs to be restructured.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay.
Oh my God, and alarm bells went off, right?
I'm like,
synchronicity from the universe, right?
Yeah, I'm like, well, okay. So what does a prison service have? They've got medical, they've got healthcare, they've got literally sort of like weekly sort of like, one-on-one sort of like interaction with healthcare. But where is the earth? Where is the down to earth sort of like, let's get our hands dirty, let's plow fields, let's build greenhouses, let's educate, let's build, irrigation, let's let's do this all. There was nothing, Beth, nothing.
Right.
So I started writing down my journey, and I'm like, if I could introduce just the basics, let's introduce crop production, let's introduce nutrition, let's introduce education, let's introduce sort of like the joys of working in the earth.
Right.
And I'm like, this could actually possibly work. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be the biggest, boldest move that I've ever done. And I made an appointment with the warden, and I'm like, I've never stepped foot in a prison. I've never stepped behind barbed wire and electric fencing and security guards and everything else. And I'm like, this is going to be my challenge, because I've never dealt with this before.
Right.
And the warden actually accepted my sort of like meeting, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Right.
So I drafted everything. I drafted basically from start to finish, how we're going to build sort of like the greenhouses, how we're going to start our crop production, how we're going to sort of like, get everything going, the education, the actual motivation to get these offenders out of their cells, out of their pods, out of their units, whatever you want to call them, and get them onto land and get them to actually dig, feel, smell, and be able to actually enjoy the endorphins that the earth gives to you.
Right.
So I was in his office, and yeah, the warden looked at me. I'm not 100% sure. I'm like, give me a chance to prove that this can work.
Wow.
And if it's just on one facility, that will make every difference to offenders, every difference to myself, every difference to even the officers. And he's like, well, I'll give you a chance. And I'm like, yes, here we go. And
is it proven that, when you work outside, well, I know for me, but with
right.
prisoners, I know definitely, and there's been, a number of documentaries and films with, when prisoners actually get outside, they work with horses, or they work in the land, they work with the land gardening and such a, it gives them some purpose back into their life.
It does, because for most for what I have seen firsthand, sort of like dealing in a new division in horticulture for me, is that these offenders actually have a purpose now. They have a purpose to actually get down onto sort of like the bottom of the property. They have a purpose to actually go and see that nothing is eating the crops. Everything is 100% the way it should be, and actually sort of like processing, how our next couple of months are going to run, so that we are actually feeding an entire prison system. And I mean, we're feeding close on probably about 1,000 people.
You've done all of that. Now you're feeding about 1,000 people. Wow.
Yep.
Oh yeah. My goodness me. And how do and I can see I'm listening to your voice, and it's just so much passion there. How do you feel now in comparison to where you were before?
It gives me a purpose to wake up every morning. My days are long, don't get me wrong. So I run from sort of like 3 o'clock in the morning until about 8 o'clock at night. But it's purpose that I know is meaning so much to other people. And for me, I'm growing, because I don't see my offenders as what they have done. I don't want to know what they have done, but knowing that they come to work every single morning and are prepared to put in sort of like a 10 to 12 hour day. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And my list is growing, and it's great knowing that sort of like this is reaching sort of like people within the system, because I don't get to actually sort of like get everybody involved, but it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they want to be in this program. They want to learn. They want to be educated. They want to sort of like strive, and they have dreams and they have passion. I mean, in general, how many offenders do you know that can actually do this?
Yeah, that's amazing. So you started off, you said in one, you said, give me a chance. And you started off in one. So are you still at the same facility? Has it grown?
Yeah, right now it's still in phase 1, which is my sort of like the prison that I'm dealing with right now. As of the end of August, I do believe if we have reached the target that I want to reach, this will become a nationwide project.
Wow, what an amazing pioneer you are, Dee. My God.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
just perfect for the passionate pioneer. Well, you know me. I just moved to Italy. I'm on a mountain.
Yeah.
I've got a house with land. You know, I want to build a healing retreat. And I want it to be self-sustainable. So I want to have a garden. I've already got fruit trees here, which were just here when I arrived. I'd like to build a garden and start, you know, feeding the community and so that we can feed. So I love hearing all of these ideas and getting inspiration. And what a pioneer you are, Dee. That's amazing. And how uncomfortable was that to make that transition, right?
Oh man, let me tell you, it was the most uncomfortable transition that I've ever made, because I never thought in my life that I would actually be working with an organization that deals with offenders.
Right.
But you know, to be put out of my comfort zone, and to be put into a new position and to still thrive within my actual field, has actually led me to believe I am a better person.
Right. It's the difference between surviving and thriving, isn't it?
Exactly. And to know sort of like at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't stop there. We're doing research right now into bringing in a special type of fish, which is a cold weather fish, which is a tilapia.
Oh, yes, I know tilapia, yes.
Yeah. And we're going to be farming tilapia as well. So not only have we got sort of like the tilapia farm on the projects, we've got actually sort of like the chickens, we've got fresh milk, we've got everything that is right now.
Do you have goats?
Yep,
I really want goats. I don't know why. I've just got this thing between chickens and goats. I'll have to give you a call when I'm choosing my goats, because there's certain goats that milk, right? And
exactly.
Only certain goats that milk, correct?
Yeah. But you know, I mean, it's just something that has never been dealt with or never been put forward into a system. But yeah, I'm the person that's making this work.
Fascinating. How amazing is that?
Yeah.
Tell me, you said you're feeding about 1,000 people every day. Is that the whole prison? Are you feeding the whole prison from just that farming? Wow.
Yes, and this is just the one facility. I mean, obviously it's a small facility as opposed to some of the larger facilities. But you know, to know that I can actually provide, and my inmates can actually provide sort of like, you know, good vegetables, good fruit, good eggs. Everything is organic. I do not use chemical. I refuse to use chemical.
Right.
And you know, I've got my natural sort of like, you know, sort of like bios that actually eat on, you know, the pests and everything else. But yeah, you know, it's just amazing to see sort of like the transformation of these guys who are absolutely, they're down. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to behave. They don't know sort of like, you know, from day to day, sort of like what their next, you know, sort of like meal is going to come from. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey, we want to introduce sweet potato. We want to introduce onions. We want to introduce, you know, a different variety of carrots. And I'm like, you guys you show me what you've got, and I will work with you.
You've given them a sense of purpose, haven't you? You've given them a reason to live
and
again.
it's amazing, Beth. It's amazing to see sort of like the joy and the passion. And yes, don't get me wrong, I mean, I know these are offenders. Yes, they've done some serious stuff, but at the end of the day, they are paying for what they have done. Don't get me wrong. But to see sort of like the actual the actual need for them to change, and the need for them to actually be a part of something is amazing. And it's something that, when I walk away at the end of the day, I'm like, these guys have done their best. These guys have actually proven beyond words, of stuff that I could never have ever expected in a corporate job.
Never. So they're just looking for a way to prove themselves, that they want to change, and
they want to change.
A chance, and
give me a chance so I can prove myself to be a grower, a cultivator, an actual sort of like a germinator. It's amazing.
How are the feelings when you get your hands in the earth? I mean, you talked about the endorphins, and it's love, isn't it? It's just amazing, the feeling.
It is. And to go out there on a daily basis, because I mean, what the nature of sort of like horticulture is. You wake up one day and it's like, oh, I'm going outside and whoa, checking my plants. These guys go out every single day, and they walk the land with me, and they see sort of like the growth pattern, and they see everything else, and we documenting, and we doing everything for the state. And they're like, look at the growth. We've got another inch. We've got another 2 inches. And it's like, there you go.
I remember having I grew up with a family of gardeners, and we ate most of the things from the garden. My grandparents and my parents, they grew.
Yeah.
And then there was many years that was missing. And then we started doing it again. How exciting to plant some things and watch them grow.
Exactly.
It's like you feel like a kid in a candy store, honestly.
Oh, definitely.
So much excitement.
It is. And, like I say, sort of like for me, I've watched these offenders sort of like really dull, lifeless, they have no emotions. To get out there, all of a sudden you see them sort of like, look at this. And I'm like, what are you seeing? And they're like, look at the growth. We are going to be propagating carrots in about 22 days. And I'm like, yeah, you are.
Learning all the terms as well, right?
And they're learning. Yeah. And it's like
nice.
Welcome to my world. This is my world, and I want to give it back to everybody.
Right. Can I ask you another question, Dee? I want to ask about the knock-on effect, because it can't just be for the prisoners. This has to have a knock-on effect for the prison guards, the prison environment, the families of the prisoners. Tell me, it must have a knock-on effect, right?
It does, because I have offenders coming to me on a daily basis, and they're like, I just want to let you know that you have changed my thoughts. You have changed sort of like the way I have been behaving. You have changed the way I have actually been dealing with my situation. And for the prison guards, it's really cool, because they're like, hey, get out there and show me what you got. And I'm like, yeah, I've got it, and they come down every now and then, and they're like, wow, what have you guys done? And I'm like, well, this is what we do. This is what we are creating. This is an environment that is actually beneficial to everyone. It's not just the offenders. It's the prison guards. The family members are actually sort of like phoning in and saying, my son has actually sort of like contacted me for the first time in 10 years.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to start crying in a minute. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing.
And
all of these little things for just getting out of your comfort zone
exactly.
and doing some soul searching, following your intuition. And this, the breadcrumbs, the universe is amazing, Dee. I mean, you saw that documentary about the prison system and you were just in that point of time where you were just like, God, something needs to change. I need to bloody change. I need to get out of this corporate thing. And ta-da, you know, and then this documentary. Now, was it easy? No. Did it take some? No. Yes, it did. It took you to get out of your comfort zone. You had to make a plan. You had to reach out to the prison system. It was unknown to you.
Exactly.
All of these things you see are what I call following the breadcrumbs. And
exactly.
Taking the next step and the next step and the next step that is available to you.
Exactly. But you know what really made me sort of like, you know, sort of like inspired to carry on doing what I'm doing is that one of my inmates hadn't spoken to his mom in like 10, 15 years. And he picked up the phone and it's like, I've got a purpose in life.
Oh my God. How amazing.
And he came to me and he's like, I reached out to my mom. Wow. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I just want to tell you that being in the fields every single day and helping you and basically making this project work has made me realize that I need to be more humble.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've created something very special, haven't you?
Exactly. And I love it, you know, and right now, you know, I mean, I go to work every single day with a purpose, right. Is to make this a sustainable living and to make my offenders realize that they have more of a purpose in life. Yeah. And when they get out, they're not going to go back to sort of like where they were in their past, but they can actually move on.
Do you know, when you were working in your corporate job, did you ever imagine that you would be capable of doing something like this?
Never. You know, the strange thing is that in my corporate world, it was like figures, and figures. Right. It's like, we need to make the targets, we need to make the money. We don't know how we're going to make it, but yeah, and I never thought this would be anything in my career ever.
Yeah. If you'd asked me, you know, 8 years ago, if I'd have been living on a mountain in Italy, you know, building a retreat, I would have said you were nuts, right? You know.
Yeah.
But it's not until you actually leave and start following the breadcrumbs and start really doing some soul searching and what do I really want to do? What brings me joy? What am I missing in my corporate world that I need to bring into my life?
Exactly.
And you're doing exactly that, aren't you?
Yeah. And you know, the strange thing is like in the beginning, I'm like, oh, what are people going to think of me because I'm working with the prison system? But you know what? Every day I go into work, I'm like, oh man, you know, this is what I can see, and I can see my offenders sort of like aspiring to be sort of like something better, you know. And not only that, it's like, you know, we opening up the doors for so much more, Beth, you know, and it's amazing. And I feel proud. I really do. I feel proud.
I'm very proud of you. And you know what? It's just, it blows my mind, Dee, that, you know, that's for our listeners listening to this podcast. I just think what's the one piece of advice that you would give to women in the corporate industry of feeling like the job is sucking the life out of them? And a bit like you, number crunching, there's no joy. What would be the one thing that piece of advice that you would give them?
You know, Beth, all I can say is that if you have a dream and you have sort of like an idea, don't give it up. You know, if you know at the end of the day you know, even though it might cost you your corporate job, or you're not going to be in a corporate position at the end of the day, don't give up on that dream. You know, think out of the box. Think sort of like, you know, what is my purpose? What is my actual goal? And just go for it. Go for it.
I believe following your passion leads to your
Oh my gosh.
I can tell you, you said something a few minutes ago which really hit home for me. And that's, what will people think of me working in the prison system?
Yeah.
But you know what? This is the problem with why we won't make changes, why it feels unsafe, because we feel that, you know, other people are going to judge us. Or what will they think if I leave my job and I go and do this? You know, I'll lose friends, I'll lose respect, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's so not true. These are just stories that we tell ourselves.
Exactly.
How many people, negative comments did you get when you went to work for the prison system? Any?
I you know, I was like, told, oh, what has gone on? Have you lost your mind? Why are you doing this?
Right.
It's not normal. It's not your career.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much negativity, but in saying that, I had some of my friends saying, this is the way you need to do it, Dee, and you're the person to do it.
And those are the people to listen to, right? You really get to close off the negative Nellies, the negative naysayers. You've really got to close them out and try and find people that are on your side, that want you to succeed and want you to do this. You need to make this change, Dee. You're not in your corporate job. You need to do this. This is what an amazing opportunity, rather than, oh no, it'll never work. You're, you know, oh, what are you doing going to work in the prison system? Oh, you're leaving your career. What's a stupid idea? You know, there's so many negative Nellies out there. And
no, for sure. I mean, I was told sort of like, you won't make it a week. You won't sort of like succeed. You're going into a completely sort of like hostile environment. And I'm like, okay, so be it. You know?
Thanks for the words of wisdom.
Exactly.
Into the fray I go.
Exactly. And you know what? I could not be more grateful for the negative comments, because that forced me to actually even do more.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dee, for chatting with us today. It was my pleasure to listen to so much passion for your new job and your new career. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you, and I'm so glad we've connected.
Awesome, Beth, and I'm so happy to be part of this. You know, it's a wonderful journey that you're going on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Dee.
All righty, you have a good one.
Thanks for listening today. If you would like to join me in telling your story about how you are quietly quitting your career and how you've got 1 foot out of the 9-to-5 rat race, or if you are a woman who has a story about already leaving the professional world to follow your passion and can offer inspiring advice, then please message me to get yourself booked in on an episode just for you. If you have a question for me or would like to know more information about how I can support you in one of my passion programs, please message me on Instagram, Facebook, or visit my website. You can also grab your free copy of my workbook, Your Passion Journey Starts Here, by joining my online community. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this podcast and share it with your friends. Until next time, this is Beth Taylor at the Passionate Pioneer Podcast, signing off.